Hi guys, what's up? Flavio Gargano here. Welcome to the second episode of Create Like a Pro. We're going to create the main structure of a song inspired by a music industry's famous artist just using Cubase Pro and its powerful tool. Are you ready for this? Let's get started! Let's have a look to the project. Here we got a marker track named Parts, when you can clearly see the song structure. We got 8 measures intro, 2 verses, and a refrain. As we saw in the previous video, I like to be organized more or less the same way for each new project. Coloring, foldering, splitting channels and grouping tracks are a must in my workflow. Look at here, I split each drum percussion into separate channels and grouped them all into a folded track. Same job for the mixer. In this way, I can control, equalize and define each percussion independently. Therefore, every single track is nested in this project folder that allows me to move and manage the song structure in the best way. Over time, I learned that spending a few minutes in the initial setup brings significant benefits to the overall pipeline. Let's have a quick view to the mixer. Here I have 2 effects tracks, a reverb, reverence, with a compressor, and a stereo delay on the other track. I sent all the drums track into a group track for better control, then I routed all the tracks to the mix bass track. Let's craft the first instrument, the drums. For the drums I used groove-aged SE5. We got a kick, a snare, 2 percussions, 2 hi-hat. I'm gonna use this one on the verse and the brighter one on the refrain. 2 claps, a crash, and a reverse crash. Let me show you some tricks. As you can see, I slightly pump out left and right the claps. Therefore, you can notice that every time I played, the pitch changed, creating little variations. To do that, move to the pitch tab and increase the random knob. The higher is the value, the bigger will be the pitch variation. That's cool, isn't it? About the crash, in order to create a reverse crash, just copy the crash on an empty pad, then move to the Simple tab and click Reverse. Of course, you can trigger and fade it in the way you want. By the way, you probably noticed that once you press the pad or the corresponding key on your keyboard, the sample keeps playing even if the key is released. If you want to avoid that, just move on the Sample tab and select Until Release. And now you have the full control of the sample. That's very helpful, especially when you have to trigger it on tempo. Let's focus on the drum loop. Okay, maybe it's quite confusing like that. I need it to be more clear. So I go here and select Pitch. In this way, each percussion gets a different color and it will be easier to recognize them. We got the kick, the snare, the percussions, the hi-hat, and the claps. Let's give it a ride. Nice and simple. But now I want to work on each percussion. Let's focus on the kick. I want to take care of these 2 frequencies. Let's close this gap. It's around 78 Hz, corresponding to the kick's attack. And of course, I lower the volume to avoid digital distortion. On the high end, I just lower around 8 kHz. Nice! Now I want to add some deepness. I load Squasher, excluded band 2 and 3, and set band 1 to 70 Hz. Lower the threshold level and increase the gain by 10 dBs. Let's check the difference. I am really impressed with how powerful this plugin is. I use it in most of my production. Anyway, time to compress. I use Tube Compressor and load the preset Kick Drum 1. Up the input to 7 and tweak the output. But what is the right setting? Let's bypass the compressor for a while and focus on the kick level. It is close to the VCA 0 level, which in my case corresponds to -8.7 dBs. But as I turn the compressor on, the level dropped down to minus 9.7, means that I can raise the output by 1 dB. Not bad. For the snare, first I clean up the low end. Then I got rid of some annoying frequencies, making the snare sound more solid. Next, I'm gonna add the tube compressor. I load the preset Snare Drum 1 and increase the drive that gives a touch of analog feel. I like it. Last, just a little touch of reverb. Anytime you want your hi-hat sound vintage, just load the Quadrafuzz plugin, set a nice distortion and boost some mid-high frequencies. This is the result. I really love this analog rusty sound. By the way, don't forget to clean up the low-end frequencies and add a touch of reverb. For the clap, I just loaded the Quadrafuzz again and distorted the mid frequencies by a touch. That's it. As I mentioned before, I routed all the percussion track into a single group track. Let's boost it up. I load the maximizer and up the optimize to 60% is okay. What a difference, isn't it? Let's move to the bass. I'm gonna use Retrolog 2 and start from the initial sound. I move to the amplifier section, increase the decay and sustain, and the release as well, just by a touch. Then I move to the filter section, decrease the cutoff, up the envelope to 40%, and now I'm gonna shape the filter by increasing the decay to less more 50%. Okay, time to color my bass. For the oscillator 1, I just set 1 octave down and move the phase to fixed. For the oscillator 2, I go for square, shape 5. You can probably hear some random flanger effects. That's because the phase of the two oscillators crisscross randomly. To avoid this, I just set the phase to fixed on the oscillator 2. And 1 octave down. For the oscillator 3, I choose sine. And last, I turn on the sub and fix phase. Let me tweak the volumes. Just like that. Okay, let's add some reverb. I want a small ambient and set a mix to 20%. Let's processing. First, I want to work with the deepness. So I open Squasher. I love this plugin because in my opinion it sounds amazing, especially with the bass frequencies. Anyway, I'm gonna exclude the band 2 and 3. Move the ratio to 0 and up the input by 4 dBs. As you probably noticed, the phase and the stereo balance do not behave properly, but don't worry, we're gonna fix it later. Now I'm gonna add the tube compressor and recall the preset Bass Synth 1. Set the input to 7 dBs. Increase the drive by an half. And the output by 8 dBs. Let's blend it with the kick. I'm gonna remove the kick's prominent frequencies from the bass. In my case, they are located around 78 Hz. For a better result, I won't just EQ or compress that band, but I let the kick drum trigger the compressor. And I'm gonna do that with a sidechain. So, I turn on the dynamic, Double-click on sidechain here, go in the menu here and select sidechain 1. Then I activate the sidechain by clicking here. And last, I move to the kick SYNTH channel and select frequency bass 1. And now, as you can see, the baseband compressor is triggered by the kick drum. That's exactly what I want. Next, I'm gonna insert a brick wall limiter and slightly compress the sound. Like that. Last, in order to make my bass stay pretty in the center, I put on the insert the stereo enhancer plugin. And set the width around 10% should work. Much better. Let's move to the next instrument, the PLUCKED synth. This instrument is layered with the bass sound to enhance its color and rhythm as well. Let me show you what I mean. This is the bass part. Let's overlap the two editors. As you can see, the PLUCKED synth in green plays some extra notes that combined with the bass create a kind of echo effects that give more groove to the bass line. Furthermore, these two instruments are layered with another instruments I mentioned before, the percussions. Listening to this combo, the sound perception is of one big pattern that constantly changes shape and color, and that's very cool, isn't it? Let's craft the PLUCKED synth. As you know, I'm going to start from 0. Increase the decay by a touch. And lower the cutoff. Then I increase the filter envelope and add a touch of a filter decay. Then I select square and shape 2. A little touch of reverb, same as before with the bass. Let's process. First, I'm gonna cut the low range, because I want to keep the bass frequencies clean. Then I'm gonna slightly increase on 5 kHz. Now I have to mix it with the bass, so I move to the mixer, load the fader all the way down, and gradually raise it up until I clearly hear it. Done! Let's check what we've done so far. Next, the synth piano. First, let's have a look to the chord structure. We got B flat minor, G flat 7 plus, F minor suspended, E flat minor 7. I want to create a sound like that with a wah-wah effects on the attack and a flat tail. So, I open Retlog 2 and select Initiate. I load the decay all the way down, close the cutoff filter, increase the envelope a bit, a little distortion and resonance, and now the cool part. Let's work on the wah-wah effect. So I increase the filter attack a little bit, let's make the decay more natural, and now for the tail I just increase the sustain a touch. 20% is okay. Let's process. I load frequency and gently compress some height around 5 kHz. And some low frequencies around 80 Hz. Maybe I want to add some ambient, why not? Let's give it a ride. Sounds cool, isn't it? Next, the electric piano. I'm gonna use Vibrant by E Instruments. It's an expansion for HALion Sonic with 4 iconic pianos. The Rhodes Sage Mark I, the Rhodes Sweet Case, the Wurlitzer 200A, and the Horner clavinet feature this nice damper button, a kind of sordina. For each instrument we can change the character, the equalization, and insert some effects as well. By default we got a tremolo, a tube compressor, a chorus, and a nice set of reverbs. But of course I can totally change this basic scenario. Let's try wah-wah. And then I would put phaser. And maybe add some distortion in the chain. I'm just choosing blindly. And last, a spring reverb. Let's try another combo. This time I'm gonna start with a flanger. Then a clean amp, and last a plate reverb. That's nice, I like it. Therefore, in the setting page I can set the tuning type, the pitch and the velocity behavior. Look how easy it is to change the shape and color with few touches. Anyway, if you feel too lazy to shape your sound by yourself, you'll find a lot of presets right here in the load menu. Let's go back to our song. I choose the Mark I stage piano and I want to add some more saturation, just on the high end. So I load the quadrafuzz and put some tube saturation on the 4th band. I want to further shape the sound, so I add frequency too. Clean the low end first, expand dynamically around 200 Hz, and I slight compress on 80 Hz. Furthermore, I put a gentle high shelf expander on 5 kHz to make the sound even more shiny. Let's give it a ride. Not bad. Next, the strings. I found this cool preset Large Strings VX that in my opinion works really well in situations like this where we have steady notes. So all we have to do is just to shape the sound in the right way. I enhanced the high end with the Cubase EQ. Then, to avoid phase problem, I loaded the stereo enhancer and reduced the width to 60% less more. Okay, now I want to add just a touch of reverb and delay. For the next instrument, I want to create a typical 90s bell sound with a touch of customization. And I'm gonna do that by layering 3 instruments. Let's craft the first one. I load Retrolog 2, set the sustain to 0, raise the decay and release by 70%. Then I move to the oscillator 1 and up the octave to 4. For the oscillator 2, I select Square, Multi, Waves number 5, and detune a bit to get a nice chorus effect. And transpose it as the oscillator 1. Last, I turn on the sub and leave it as it is. A touch of reverb, and stereo delays as well. Done! Now I'm gonna layer the other 2 sounds from HALion Sonic SE3. I choose nice chorus bells and the Mark I electric piano from the vibrant suite we saw before. And this is the result. Very nice combo. Of course, I can mix the 3 sounds in the way I want, changing so the shape and color at my taste. Okay, let's talk about the song structure. Creating the structure of a song means organizing it into sections such as the intro, the verses, the chorus, the bridge, and so on, connecting them in a natural and creative way. Let's see how you connected the intro with the first verse. By following the complexity graph, you can easily understand how many tracks are involved. Even small variations can make a difference. Look at here, for example. I used 2 hi-hat, a snare, a clap, and some percussion. Instead, in the verse, there are only 1 hi-hat and a snare, no piano or strings. Did you notice how I connect the drums between the intro and the verse? No, I'm not talking about the reverse crash. It would have been the simplest way. Let's take a closer look at the drum groove. Here, I just get rid of the kick low frequencies. It's just a little detail that in combo with the reverse crash create a nice connection to the next section. Another trick I used is to open up the mix during the chorus to give a greater feeling of space. So I put the stereo enhancer on the mix bus and automated the width. Check this out. Here we go. Of course, this is just an example of the possibilities you can take advantage of to make your project creative. Last, just to roughly boost the song, I put a maximizer on the mix bus, and this is the final result. Just a second, maybe I'm missing some tracks. Let's start over. This little performance allows me to introduce you to a new important topic in a production: writing a melody. It may depend on creativity, musical knowledge, or perhaps even musical instinct. I'll show you what I've done, so you can have more elements to create your own melody. First of all, I exported bass, and I tried to create a catchy melody that suits the singer's vocal range, by simply playing it with any instrument. Then I wrote the lyrics, looking for a good compromise between staying on the melody I just created and adapting it to the sentences. Next, the part I hate the most: singing. I'm a really bad singer. However, it is very important to have a reference that is as accurate as possible. This will make the song learning much easier. And finally, the fun part: recording the voice. Of course, the recording quality will depend on the hardware used. That is the microphone, the preamp, the sound card, and last but not least, by the singer's skill. I recorded 3 voices in total: the main line, a second line that doubles the chorus, and a counter melody.
I remember the light that came from your eyes.
Before processing or correcting the pitch, I like to attenuate some peaks manually. Then I use the Vary audio to correct some notes. Look here, for example. This note is not perfectly aligned to the C pitch, and also has a downward inflection on the second part. I want to keep both the initial portamento and the final connection with the following note. So I'm gonna limit the correction range to the center, and then increase the straighten curve. The secret is to make small correction and make the voice sound tuned and natural as well.
Say we were too fast.
Now the job is to repeat the same process where required. It's up to you whether or not you want to remove some breath. Once everything is fixed, you should have a result more or less like this.
I feel as if you just look away. Don't you know?
Okay, let's process.
Might have been a long shot.
I'm pretty happy with the voice recording. As you can see, it's quite neutral. I want to further boost and compress some frequencies. So I came up with this.
Might have been a long shot. Everybody say.
Then I insert a compressor and a soft limiter.
We're no rules at all, no. No planes, no ghosts, just you and I. We're gone through the rain.
For the chorus, I experimented this. I put on the second vocal line the following chain: a cloner, a tube compressor, a touch of limiter, and some EQ. This will double the main vocal line. Let's see the result.
Don't you know that I feel as if you.
Okay, it's not bad, but I can further improve it. So I duplicate this track and I set both channels on a stereo combined panner that allows me to move the left and right pan independently. Last, I copied and pasted the EQ settings. Then left click and select invert. Maybe I put back some high end. In this way, I just created a little difference in terms of frequencies between the two tracks in order to avoid phase problems. I can further improve this technique by slightly changing the waves format. To do that, go into Wave Editor, select all, and move the Shift format slider by a touch.
I remember the light that came from.
Let's check the difference.
Night, I remember the light that came from your eyes and made it unforgettable. Don't you know that I feel as if you just look away.
That's very cool, isn't it? Last, I added a second vocal line in the chorus.
Don't you know my life has always been a lie.
And another one at the intro with the radio effects made with the quadra fuzz, just to make it more interesting. But you know, sky's the limit. This is just a small picture of a huge scene. But now, time for Q&A. Happy to answer to your question, my friends. Leave a comment and I'll try to catch it up as soon as possible. Sile, do you want to know more about the marker track I created to organize the song? This is a simple marker track that I called parts. I'm gonna create another one to make myself more clear. To draw a marker, you have two options. Select the Draw tool or hit the number 8 on your keyboard, then left-click to create a marker. Instead, if you click Ctrl-Command plus click and drag, you will create a zone marker. You can name it or even color it. Very easy. Okay, now what about creating an hyperpop song with the Cubase stock plugins? I don't have any idea about it. By the way, I listened to a few songs on YouTube and I come up with something interesting. Let's see if you like it. I used Resolog 2 as you request and I craft a synth with a short decay, a touch of resonance and clip distortion. For the oscillator 1 I set triangle and move 1 octave up. For the oscillator 2 I set sawtooth, mode, sync, shape 3 and tune it a fifth up corresponding to a course of +7 cents. For the oscillator 3 I select cross mode and shape 22%. Just a touch of noise, a reverb and a delay. Done! Hope you like it! I had a lot of fun today. We learned new Cubase tricks that you can use in your productions. Don't miss the link to the project file in the description right here below. Anyway, practice with Cubase every day and I promise you that you will create like a pro.